APAB Calc. We're doing Intro to BC and topic number 1, which is parts. So example 6 is talking about a definite integral, right? So this is an integral with bounds. So we integrate it the same way. One way to deal with this, honestly, is to just separately do the work on an indefinite integral and then go back when you're all done and plug the values in. And that's entirely up to you if that's a thing you'd want to do. It's certainly something I've done more than once because I just didn't feel like dealing with changing bounds and everything else. So it's, it's a tricky thing, but, it's entirely up to you. If you want to keep the bounds as you go, that's fine. If you want to just do a section where you separately say work and then do the indefinite integral and then plug in the answers when you get them up here, that's fine. Just keep in mind you can never set a definite integral, meaning an integral with bounds, equal to an indefinite integral, an integral without bounds. You can't do that. So, however it works best for you is totally up to you. So, let's go ahead and walk through parts, right? I know that I use Liat, right? I use Liat to pick my u, right? In this situation, I noticed that algebraic comes before trig, so my u is going to be the x, and my dv is going to be the cosine of 4x dx, right? Cool. Oh, as a side note, the reason that this wouldn't work for u sub, I kind of stopped mentioning that a while ago, but if you tried making u inside, which your u would be 4x, then your du is a 4dx, which doesn't take care of this x on the outside. So that's why it's not going to work as a simple u sub. Cool. So my u is x, which means my du is dx, right? My dv is cosine of 4x dx, which when we integrate, right, we've already seen this in the last example, we have to worry about that 4x, right? So if I integrate cosine, I get regular sine, which is fine, but because I have a 4x on the inside, if I integrate, I'm going to have to divide by that 4, so I'm going to get 1/4 the sine of 4x, right? So this integral is going to be uv, right? So this integral up here is going to be equal to x over 4 times the sine of 4x, evaluated from pi over 6 to pi over 4, minus the integral, still from pi over 6 to pi over 4, of v du, which is going to be a 1/4 sine of 4x dx, which is something we can integrate. Again, either using simple u sub where your u is 4x, or just recognizing that you understand if you integrate something with a 4x on the inside, you have to divide by 4. So I'm going to get that this is a pi over 4 sine of 4x, evaluated from pi over 6 to pi over 4, minus, when I integrate a sine, I'm going to get a negative cosine. So it's going to end up being plus at the end of the day, right, because minus the negative cosine. And it'll be a 1/16, because again, I'm dividing by 4, so cosine of 4x from pi over 6 to pi over 4, which we're going to deal with in a sec. So I'm going to go ahead up here and get myself a little bit of room to plug some of this stuff in, right? So it's not going to be a pretty answer, but we'll survive. Okay, so pi over 6 to pi over 4. All right, cool. So when we plug in up here, right, if I plug in pi over 4, I'm going to get a pi over 16, because it's pi over 4, times the sine of pi. Well, that's nice. That's going to go away. Minus a pi over 24 times the sine of 4 pi over 6 would be a 2 pi over 3, which is not going to go away. Plus, I'm going to get a 1/16 cosine of pi, right, because 4 pi times 4, minus a 1/16 the cosine of 2 pi over 3. And then I just have to know some stuff about the unit circle, right? So this is going to end up being a 0, right, minus a pi over 24 times a root 3 over 2, minus a 1/16 minus a 1/16 times, because that was a negative 1, by the way, times a negative 1/2, right? So I end up getting that this is negative root 3 pi over 48. And then I'm going to go ahead and clean these guys up because they can both be written. Honestly, you could make everybody over 48 right now if you wanted, right? This would be, oh no, it's not easy to make everybody over 48 because this guy. Let's deal with this first. So this would be a negative 2 over 32, right? And this is a plus 1 over 32, right? So you're going to end up getting that this is a negative... Oh, I did something crazy. Oops. I got to fix something on the answer sheet. So, sorry, did a crazy thing. Root 3 pi over 48. I made this a plus 1/16 or a minus 1/16 when I meant to make it a minus 1/32, because sometimes my brain is a little bit slow. Oops. Yeah. Oops. So this is my answer. If you want to get a common denominator, you could, but it's not super awesome. So there was a slight right-o on the answer sheet. It is not. What I wrote on the answer sheet was a negative root 3 over 48 pi minus 1/16. Sometimes when we're tired, our brains do stupid things. So it's not that, it's this. Cool beans?